And greetings to everyone, and welcome to the Trenton 365 show. I'm Jacque Howard, the creator and host of the program. And if you want to reach out to me, be sure to do so on any of the social media platforms where you can find us. That would be Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. In addition to that, I'd like to say thank you again publicly to WIMG 1300 and WPHY for being one of the outlets of the Trenton 365 show. And I encourage you to follow the other programs that are on those stations as well, because they are all about building a better community for everyone, as Trenton 365 is. Now it is my time to talk about some things that I'm really passionate about, and that is the importance of us being actively involved in our communities, reading and literacy, and also our children, also our seasoned population, but we'll talk a little about them later. But I'm talking about our youth. We've gotten a great opportunity. We have some brilliant children, brilliant minds who are hungry and ready to do some amazing things, but oftentimes in difficult situations and spaces, they don't have the resources, the outlets, the opportunities. And it behooves us to be the ones who know those situations are out there to provide those opportunities for them. And doing that in all different types of ways, whether it's a mentoring or talking or sharing information, or like my next guest, Teska Frisby, writing a book with great illustrations that shows people that there's a different perspective of things. So please welcome virtually Mrs. Teska Frisby to the Trenton 365 show. Hi, Tez. How are you?
Hi, Jacque. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing good also. I want to publicly say that you look fantastic. You always, whenever I see you in person, like you have this reservedness about you, but it's always the strength, and it's almost like a foundation of pillar. And I know oftentimes you are not the person who's out front speaking or driving anything, but you are definitely one of the backbones of so much that is happening here in this region. And I say the region because you are the spouse of Samuel Frisby, who is one of our elected officials. We're not going to be talking about Sam. He can get his own thing. We're going to be talking about the wonderful Teska Frisby and about this book that you wrote. So let's talk about a little bit about Teska Frisby. First of all, a little bit of your background. What are some of the key values and things that are important to you that you're living out here in Trenton?
Thank you, Jacque, for having me, and thank you to everyone who's allowed this platform. I'm sorry. Thank you, Jacque, for having me, and thank you to everyone who's allowed this platform to bring out to the community. I am a Jersey City native, born and raised, educated there, and met my amazing husband, who I say I'm his wife for the rest of his life, Sam Frisby. But we have two amazing young men. I want to call them my little boys, but they're not. I call them my twin towers. But they tower over their mother, and I am just as who I am is I am first and foremost, I am a child of God. And I want that to shine more than anything else in my life. Is that's a banner and a badge that I never take off, no matter where I am. I am grateful for life, health, and strength each and every single day. I am one who doesn't. I was always taught to, children should be seen and not heard, and grew up and really believed that for the most part. And now that my views on that have changed dramatically, because I want our children to speak up and to speak out. So I am trying to be an advocate for that. And whatever it is that is needed in the community, I don't want to be one who sits around and not only whispers or just sits and has conversation or gossip about what needs to be done in the community, and then not get up off my tuchus and do something about it. So I've always been one who disdained the idea of gossip. I would tell folks, if you start with the gossip, I promise you I will shut it down and I will exit. I don't do gossip. It annoys me. And so if we want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation. But I don't do gossip. So if there's something, there's a need, if there's a problem, let's see how we can fix it. Let's see how we can do something to bring about change. Otherwise, there's no need to have a discussion at all. So my goal is always to find some type of resolve. And if that is possible, let's do that in a peaceful way, and always respectful. I don't believe that I don't believe that it's in order to build me up that I have to tear someone else down. I believe that if I'm going to get up and I'm going to get even to one tier, that means that I ought to bring someone else up with me, and I should do whatever I'm doing in love. So that's who I am.
Now that mentality and focus, and it's one I'm sure that resonates with many people, because that's, I think, I think that's how cultures develop and evolve. You know, you have a hierarchy, people show respect, they show love, people know where they fit in, they get in where they fit in. Um, Being from Jersey City, and living here in Trenton and being very integrated into what's happening in Trenton for such a long time, there's some disparities between how the two cities operate, or at least where they are now. Do you find that internally difficult to see where your hometown is and where your residence is, and like how it's just not kind of clicking in a way that the residents are really thriving?
It is it's a challenge for me, and it's something that I believe that there, if we can galvanize and utilize the resources, that it is possible, but we need more people to believe that, to speak that, and then move in that. And I believe anything is possible if we just have the right people and the drive is right. So yeah, it is a little disheartening to see the disparities between the two. And it is my prayer, it is my belief that we can and we will get there. And it's just going to be, maybe we have to take maybe a different avenue. Maybe you have to make some other connections that have not been made, and work with the ones here who really do want to put in the work, and when I say put in the work, I mean a lot of us who volunteer and put in the work, because it's not always those who are getting paid for it that's doing the major work. It's a lot of volunteers and people who just have the good heart and the desire to bring about change. They're just tired of seeing things the way that they are. So that's where I am with that.
And I'm so glad you said that, Tess. And I think that that is I think that for the folks who are going to be seeing this later, they'll be able to pull that out and understand exactly what you mean. It's difficult for us to compare two different entities and two different platforms and two different situations, but there are going to be similarities that we can learn from. And it's just a matter of having the right structure in place so that people realize, hey, okay, well, maybe we can't do it like that, but we can do something similar along with the partners that we have. So the pivot or the redirection. So thank you very much for saying that. And I think that that leads us right into talking about your book, because I haven't read your book. I've only seen a cover of it, but from what we've talked about in the past and seeing how like you move, in the area, I know that you're passionate about our young people and really making sure that they get an opportunity, that they realize that there's opportunities for them and that they're being encouraged and supported. So let's just talk about the book, like the whole idea. Give the audience like an introduction to this book that Teska Frisby has written.
First thing, if you can see in the back, let's see that side. There's two. There's my paperback. Let's see, paperback on this side and hardcover. And this is the book. And it's called Different, Just Like You. And that's a actual family picture, which is very important family picture. It has a lot of history to it. But the book was birthed because I was angry, I was irritated, and I'm a protective mother.
Mhm.
And so the book was birthed from people's misconception of my son Samuel, who's my firstborn. And I believe that if people knew his story, that they would view him and they would react to him differently. And but I don't feel that you shouldn't have to do all of that in order to treat him differently. Everybody has a story, and everybody has something that is genuinely different about themselves. And if we could get that in our heads and just understand that, we could change the world dramatically. But because we have not embraced that, and folks view, or at least it has been my experience, that people look at anything that is different as something that is to be hidden, something that is to be shunned. And I don't believe that. I grew up where there were a lot of different. My community was diverse to a great degree. My family is very diverse, and so for when people react to my son differently in a negative way, it hurts me because I believe it is hurting him at times because it leaves him in a state of confusion. So this book, before I even get into the meat of it, when we were talking about our children and encouraging them, this book was illustrated by a 10-year-old here in the city of Trenton, which I'm just so elated about because I want to make sure that we give our children every opportunity to have their shine. and to encourage them and let them know that there is greatness in them. And sometimes it takes pulling out of them and then reinforcing that, because self-doubt is the biggest deterrent for any of us, even as adults. So you can only imagine for our children what it must feel like. So when I met this little 10-year-old, and I'm going to hold my book up again because he's on the back, Mr. Khalil Livingston. Let's see. And he's here from the city of Trenton, and he is so, so fantastic. He took constructive criticism very well, because I didn't care for the first ones. And he started criticizing. And I said, no, it's not that they're ugly, because he said, my pictures ugly. I said, no, they're not. It's just that they're not for this project. They're probably going to be for another project. And I said, don't throw them away because they're beautiful. It's just not what I'm looking for. So when we went back and his mom helped him and we redid it, and he came, the second set was perfect, spot on, didn't have to change anything. I'm like, you are just so amazing, young man. So, so amazing. So I wanted to lift him up, and then the publisher is a Black woman. So I wanted to make sure that it was all, I need to make sure that folks understand first of all, there is so much greatness here in the city of Trenton. And we get a lot of press about all the bad and the negative things that go on in our city. We need to start having a channel where it shines nothing but the positive things. And you would be surprised, or you might be surprised, there'll be others who are surprised at just how much greatness there is and how much there is to actually report on. Who knew that there is a Black woman who has her own publishing company, Pink Butterfly Press, Nicole Major, who has her own business and is kicking butt here in the city of Trenton. And she has a very good following, and it has been increasing, I'm very grateful to say. But she made this process of publishing this book seamless for me, which was torture at first because I was trying to do it independently. And the site that I got on had a glitch, and they didn't know it, and I didn't know it, and they didn't figure it out until about 3 weeks later. And by that time, I was irritated, frustrated, put the book down, shut myself down. I was like, okay, we need to pick this up in a little while. The book, I gave it to Nicole, and within about 6 weeks, we had gotten everything. She asked every question that I didn't even know that needed to be asked, and she got this book. Originally it was supposed to be with the other company in December, early December, it was supposed to come out. I gave it to her in January, and on February 1, it was published, and the first copy went on sale on February 4th. And I have to do bragging rights because I have to say we got into good trouble twice. The first week in February, we sold out. Second week of February, we sold out. The fourth week in February, we sold out. And I was like, Amazon, I'm gonna need y'all to do better and keep up. So now Amazon, eBay, Walmart, and BarnesandNoble.com, all of them now have the book. And I am elated to say that I think they're keeping up. Everyone said they had there was a little delay on some of them. Like, if it's not on this site, go to the other site. I said, but you could definitely find the book. And it's in paperback, it's in ebook, and it's in hardback. But the book, again, getting back to the meat of it, one of the reasons why, but one of the images that I had in my head when I was writing this book, and I keep telling this story, was a man who was coming towards me. But my son and I were going into the mall. He was leaving the mall, and I could see him, his eyes were focused on Samuel as we were we're going into the mall. Jacque, he was so focused on Samuel, he could not see me. And I'm like, why is he staring so hard? And I could see Samuel looking around, and I'm like, he's making my son uncomfortable, because he's just staring. And Samuel's that person, he's like, hi. And he wouldn't speak back. He was just fixated on it. So I bent my head down to get his attention, like, hi. I said, if you're looking for him to do tricks or perform, he's not going to do that. He's just a child in a wheelchair. And it angered me that he would make my son, and that he was a grown man, and that would make a child feel that uncomfortable. It really angered me. So after I got his attention, he was like, oh, and he turned around, and my spirit man said, turn around. He's doing it again. And with my back to him, Samuel in front of me, he can't see Samuel for the most part. All he can see is a wheelchair, possibly through my, that's past me. He's still peering at me. He's not peering at me, he's peering at Samuel. And I was like, what? And he was like, oh, and God is working on me. I am a work in progress, because he turned around and he hit a pole. Bam. I was like, good for you. Serves you right. You shouldn't have made my child feel uncomfortable. I was like, I don't care. I am not, I still have not repented. It's been years since that has happened. I still say, good for you. You shouldn't have made him feel uncomfortable. So I'm a work in progress. I own that.
Well, Tess, I want to interrupt you, right? Because these are the spaces and the conversations that I love. We're just being candid, having a conversation, talking about real life, and I'm glad that you shared that. And I'm a little teary-eyed because I love Sam. I love your family, and I don't see that, but I understand how some other people who don't have any exposure could immediately put themselves in this odd space. I want to help with that and make sure that no nobody feels, excuse my language, shitty. No one likes feeling bad. Nobody. So I don't want to portray that on anybody, and I don't want anybody around me to ever feel like I'm doing that to them or that anyone else is doing that to them in my presence. And I'm glad you told me that, because I think that that's one of those things on my heart now that I'm going to be paying attention to that. And and Lord willing, the Spirit will move in me that if I see any of that out in public, that I will be able to address it in a way that is warming, care fronting, et cetera, and that we can just start changing the dynamic of this, because that's how this is all going to change. It can't be, just mom doing this. It needs to be everybody who knows mom, who knows this family, who knows this child, and to take this on as a responsibility. And then before you know it, things start to change. As an example, I like to talk about drunk driving. We as a country and as a world did some major things when we said as a community, we're not going to tolerate drunk driving anymore. And we did it. We can do that with other things as well. It's just a matter of having the people who are willing to do it, and people like yourself and me to an extent to kind of, you know, turn them screws, give them a little tap on the booty and say, no, this is what we're doing. This is good for everyone. You may not realize it in your life, but the people who have experienced this have said this. Now, if we're going to have open communication across the table, everyone's values and opinions have to be equally shared. And I appreciate you writing this book to share about that. You've already explained that it's available pretty much everywhere: Amazon, eBay, Walmart. So you're already out there.
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble too. Hey, let me put that on the list. So when you're at this next phase, you sold out already twice. So what's next? I mean, are you going to do a book tour? Are you going to be doing more interviews? Do you have a larger campaign that you want to be a part of?
Thank you for asking that. I am looking to, as we are getting back to the space where we can be in each other's presence, I am looking to do book signings. I want to, in May, start doing book signings with this. And more than that, I want to have the platform, because I'm working on getting this into the school systems. I want this to be something that every child reads, but more important, because even though this is a children's book, this book was really geared towards adults. The message is for adults. And I want people to get it, that we need to learn to embrace different. And our children, we people say that they're waiting for the children to go to school so they can learn. No, I'm my son's, my boys, they're my children's first teacher. Look, in my womb, I used to sing, read to my children. My children came out speaking Spanish. I'm just saying, the Cuban in me was like, listen, this is all part of me, so we're gonna bring it all together. So you're gonna learn English, you're gonna learn Spanish, we're gonna learn all this. And my sons went to my youngest son went to a Hispanic, predominantly Hispanic speaking school. He spoke more Spanish than the majority of the children there. Why? Because the parents weren't teaching their children at home. But I want you to, we are their first teachers. So I was like, yeah, you're gonna get the Spanish, you're gonna get the God in you, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get. And I said, if he's gonna come out being a hot mess, it's gonna be because I did it. I'm doing this, and my husband was like, well, Tess, what about me? I'm like, I'm gonna give you your space, give me a minute here. But we're our children's first teachers. Before they leave home, they're watching mom, they're watching dad. My children, my boys, even Samuel with his disabilities, and he's differently able, we like to say. My husband opens the door for me. I tell folks, when I am in the presence of my family, I am the only female in this house, and that includes that crazy dog that we have. I am not touching a freaking door. I don't care if they have hands full and you better put something. I'm not touching a door. That includes a door handle for my car, a door handle to the front door, the back door. The only door I will touch is the bathroom door. Other than that, with my boys around and my husband around, I'm not touching it. But my boys learn that because they see my husband doing that. So when dad's not around, they know this is how we take care of mommy. We make sure that mommy is safe. We tend to her. We do this, we do that, and we are respectful of her. My boys, I have never had to have that crazy grunt. My boys have never heard their mother and father have an argument. That's intentional because that's not a space for children. My children know, well, what my husband and I are teaching our children is that this is how you conduct yourselves. This is how you conduct yourselves in public. This is how you conduct yourself, man to woman. It is respectful. You should not be yelling at each other. That is not godly. That is not what we teach. And we are a household that trusts and believes. We rely solely on God and everything that He gives us. That is the top tier, and everybody and everything else comes after that. So what are you teaching your children? I mean, and we don't all believe the same, and that's okay, but teach them something, because if you don't, the world is definitely going to teach them something, but I'd rather them get it from me first. I believe that my heart loves them more than any other heart. My husband and I, no one's going to love our children more than we can. No one could ever. So I want them to have the best. And that means I've got to give you the best of me. And that's in my actions. And Jacque, I just want to say this real quick. We were in a mall another time, different mall. And this little girl, she couldn't have been more than 4 years of age. She came towards us and we ended up going into the same store. And she ran behind her dad real quick and was like scared because she saw Samuel coming towards her. And then after a little while, she came from behind her father's leg and she said, "What's the matter?" And I was, when I say that it blessed me for her to ask me that question, I was so grateful. And I said to her, "His legs don't work like yours and mine." I said, "He has what's been called cerebral palsy." And so we started talking, and I could see her walls just slowly breaking down. And her father was in awe of her because he didn't have the courage to ask the question. He just stood there. But that little girl came around. And when I say it was the best thing, the best medicine for me, I don't know what it did for her, but I know it brought her walls down. She wasn't scared by the time she left. She was saying hi, and she said, wave bye-bye to Samuel before he left. That's what I want people to do. I want people to simply start a conversation. Ask a question. Let our children embrace what's different. You have coily hair. You have no hair. You have gray hair. You have blonde hair. You have red hair. You have blue eyes. You have green eyes. You have brown eyes. You're tall. You're not as tall. I like to say I'm vertically challenged, that I'm not short, Jacque. Just for the record.
Me too.
Not short. I'm vertically challenged.
And I'm follically challenged.
Yes, that's right. My line is moving. I get it. The gray's coming in and I'm loving it. I am learning to embrace me. But it is my heart's desire that every child, and then hopefully it'll domino to the adults, but I want every child to get a hold of this book, and I want them to start asking I want them to first search within themselves and then find out what's different about me and then celebrate it. That would be the biggest takeaway for me, is for every child to realize my different is unique and it's beautiful. It's not something for me to shun. It's not for anything that I need to hide. It's something that it needs to be celebrated. And if we do that with our children, we can change the world. And then we can get our adults to learn that, you know what, being different is not so bad. It doesn't mean that you have to be hostile. It doesn't mean you have to be adversarial towards me. That means there's a conversation to be had, and let's learn from one another. We're not doing that. People are so afraid of different that they don't know how to react, or they're reacting to it in just a negative way. That is not the definition of different. It just means there's another something to be learned about. So that is my heart's desire, that we would get it and our children would teach the adults, because right now the adults are not listening. We're not paying attention. We are being stubborn, and it's this. Learn from a child. Be still. How about that? Let the child read the book to you and then get it. I cried a whole lot when I wrote this book because a lot of it just brought back memories for me. And the whole book, I told people it's actually a history book for the most part for my son, but it it took me to a lot of places and it took a lot of tears because I'm protected like you. I'm protective of my child. I'm protective of my children. And I don't think that any child should feel uncomfortable because of who they are. Why they're exactly the way God has made them. And why do we need to why do I need to be afraid of that? Why do I have to hide that? Why should I feel ashamed of that? God made me, he made you. And I tell everybody, if there's nothing else that you get when if you cut your hand and I cut my hand and our children and their children cut their hand, we're going to bleed the same blood. We're going to bleed the same blood. So I'm different, but I'm just like you. My blood is going to be red. I promise you. And the blood that runs through me, you probably won't want to admit it. Some people won't, but it runs through you too.
Hey, amen. I think that's a perfect way to finish. Mrs. Teska Frisby, thank you so much for sharing not only an insight that I have not had a chance to have that one-on-one conversation with you, and it's just leveled me up inside to know that we're friends and to support you in all your endeavors. But now we can add not only advocate, but also author to the list of wonderful titles that come with Mrs. Teska Frisby. I can't wait to share more about your book, Different, Just Like You. And hopefully we can have you come back and talk more about it later, especially in May when you start doing some book signings, and maybe we can be a part of helping you encourage that, okay? All right.
So
Blessings.
much, Jacque. I appreciate you.
Oh, for
Blessings
sure.
to you.
Blessings to you as well. Folks, you've been listening and watching the Trenton 365 show. The whole impetus behind why I started this program is to bring people together from different backgrounds and different persuasions and have conversations so that we can realize that we're all in this together. We are all human beings. We are all built the same. And that the problem is that we need to come together and forget about our differences and build a better community for the future. That's one of the wonderful things that human beings can do besides all the other life forms on this planet. My name is Jacque Howard, creator and host of the Trenton 365 show. And in closing, I always like to say it's about justice, peace, and humility.